Welcome to this edition of the Martini Chats.
Welcome to the latest edition of Martini Chats
with Jordan
and Gates from Gates' Kitchen.
Gates' Kitchen. We're coming at you live from a claim situation today.
Live claim scenario, not where we would like to be or what we thought we'd be doing in this edition of our Martini Chats, but here we are.
Here we are. We're going to live and learn. And we want to teach y'all along the way because we thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of hear the steps to take when you think you have a claim, because we get that question a lot, right? So, Gates, tell us, what made you think originally that you even had an issue going on here?
Well, we moved into this house about 6 months ago. We had an inspection, everything checked out great, but after a couple of weeks, I feel like I started noticing kind of like a musty smell in our kitchen, mostly like when we opened the sink underneath, and we also had these like drain flies that would not go away, and we got the bug guy to come a bunch of times, and he was like, I think you might have a crack in your pipe, and we were like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, and then we noticed some moisture in the floor in this room that's behind our kitchen, so that was what really caused me to call the plumber and get them to come look at it, and they actually came out and did a smoke test to see if there was a crack in the pipe, which I thought was interesting, and they said that there was smoke coming out from under the kitchen sink area, so they were like, yeah, there's a leak somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you noticed all that. The first person you called was the plumber to get them to come out, assess what's happening. I have an issue.
Yeah.
And then walk us through what your next step was.
Yeah. So after the plumber did the smoke test, they came back and took a piece of the cabinet out and discovered that there was a hole about this big in an old piece of cast iron pipe that was not visible under the cabinet. So we determined that every time we've been turning our kitchen sink on, water has been pooling underneath the cabinet where we couldn't see it, and then running out the back of the slab, and then running the length of the kitchen cabinets into that room behind us. So they took this part out, they took that part out, and they were like, yeah, I think you've got a situation on your hands. It may be time to call.
Definitely a situation.
It's definitely a situation. Time to call a restoration company to get them in here. Like, we see some mold. You know, they need to come and address the mold situation and figure out what the extent of the damage was.
Okay. So you start kind of totaling up what that dollar field looks like, and you compare your deductible. You call Ann in our office to kind of discuss.
That was my next step, was to call Ann to say, hey, I have a $2,500 deductible. Like, this is kind of looking like they're going to have to tear my cabinetry out. It's looking like there's drying that needs to be done with all these fans that you see here. And so we figured pretty quickly that it was going to be over the deductible and that it was going to be significant, so we decided to go ahead and open the claim. So once we opened the claim, that was a late afternoon. The next morning, kind of mid-morning, the adjuster actually went ahead and came out here, which was great. And he came at the same time that the restoration people were here, so they were able to look at it together, which was wonderful.
I think that's an important, and I'll pause there to note that adjusters, when you file a claim, they don't come out within an hour. They're not emergency professionals that come
especially
out.
Not if there's a big storm or something. Like, this is a one-off situation, so luckily he was available, but
and sometimes they don't send an adjuster, they can desk adjust things. So sometimes we get a little questions from clients about how long to expect for your adjuster to call, but just know that they will touch base. I think 24 to 48 hours is the average kind of touch base timeline, and then they kind of set that expectation from there.
Yes, so they set my expectations high, showing up really quickly.
They sure did.
They got the estimate done really quickly, and they actually paid the first part of the claim really quickly, but now they have gone silent. So we are in this waiting period between the restoration company and the adjuster while they figure out what is covered and what's not covered, and and that kind of will determine how things get put back together, which I feel for people, like, this is my first claims experience, and it is a little frustrating, as we are living with my parents again, while we don't want the baby in the mold-ridden kitchen, or house for that matter, so it's not pleasant, but
claims are never fun. We get
claims
that.
are never fun, but, you know, I'm glad that we had the right coverage. My husband, you know, likes to complain about the cost of our insurance, but he is thankful that I have the coverage that we did when we bought the house 6 months ago. So
which is also important to always know what you have, what you don't have, because there are certain limitations to coverages when it comes, especially to water. Water is tricky. So if you have any questions about what kind of coverage you have or endorsements or options, always call us, because water can get tricky.
Yeah, this
And,
type of loss isn't normally covered. I have a specific endorsement for that. So, it depends on the company, depends on the situation. Everything about claims just depends. So,
and Gates won't want to hear this, but they say statistically, if your house has had a water leak or a water loss, that you're 3 times more likely to have one again. So, if you haven't heard us already start talking about risk management when it comes to loss prevention with water, you will, because there are certain things that you can do, not necessarily to prevent this situation, but water is a very tricky claim. So, more to come on that.
More to come.
Thanks for tuning in from Gates' Kitchen.